What's up, YouTube? Here we are at the table back again. Another Legacy deck tech. This is going to be our wonderful world of Legacy Dredge part 9,000 or something. At this point, I really don't remember how many I've done. I know I could have looked, but you know what? Whatever. Let's get right into it. We have our Dredge cards. Now this is a different variant of a manaless Dredge deck. This one actually has land. Not a lot, obviously. We have our Grave Trolls, which you're always going to run 4 of those. You're going to get your 4 Stinkweed Imps. Only 3 Shambling Shells this time. Your 4 Golgari Thugs. And we got 3 copies of Dakmor Salvage. Now this Dredge deck actually ends up running more Dredge cards than any other Dredge deck I've actually played. I end up running 18, so almost a third of your deck are cards that actually say Dredge. Now, coming into a support spell, we got our 3, these are brand new sleeves, damn it, 3 Griselbrands. Pay 7 life, draw 7 cards, flying lifelink. We got our Phantasmagorians to just go all in if needed, or bit by bit. Our 1 Flayer of the Hatebound for a win condition. 4 Street Race for additional dredging if needed. And then I went with 2 Sickening Shoals. You could go with Contagion. Either one is fine, but, you know, I got, autographed Shoals, so I kept them. Now, for the support, Griselbrand has lifelink. Flare the Hatebound when it comes into play, or another creature comes into play from the graveyard, will deal damage. You get a Flare in play, then reanimate your Griselbrand via Dread Return. The lifelink will actually trigger, so he'll deal 7 damage the second he comes into play. If you need the 7 life to draw your 7 cards, that's how you would basically go about and do it. Now, going into the actual, these are all the cards that literally will go to your graveyard. We have our standard 4 Dread Returns, sack 3 creatures, bring a creature from your graveyard back into play, our 4 Icarids, 4 Bridge from Belows. Now, we have our Bloodghast. This is the reason why Dakmor Salvage is here, because it's a land, we can dredge it, and it gets the landfall trigger. Going up against decks that are running Path to Exile, Sword to Plowshares, having your creatures die and go to the graveyard, not really a big problem, because you can just generate tokens from Bridge from Below. But when they're being removed from the game via Sword to Plowshare, Path to Exile, what have you, it does become problematic, because now you're just, you can't generate the tokens. So having another 4 creatures that you can just freely bring back into play is a great option. This gives you a pretty good way to aggressively hit your opponents. You know, Nether Shadow and your Icarids are going to have haste. Now, Bloodghast will only have it when your opponent has 10 or less life. In testing, I've seen that actually happen a few times. It's not something massively going to happen. I should point out that this is one of the few decks that I play, one of the few Dredge variants I play, where you can actually hardcast Cabal Therapy via your Dakmor Salvage. In terms of, let's say you were going to go to a tournament and play 8 rounds, and each round went to 3 games, you'd play 24 games. that would happen maybe 2 games. Maybe 2 games if you were lucky. And you'd only hardcast 1 therapy and then promptly, if needed, sack it. Well, flash it back, by sacking a creature. Now, unlike the manaless dredge deck before, or manaless dredge with bolstered spy, or manaless dredge blue, you're not getting Whirlpool Rider, you're not getting bolstered spy into play, you're getting Griselbrand into play. The basic premise is get Griselbrand into play if you want to combo out. Draw 7 cards. Dredge, God knows what. God knows how many. It depends on what you have. And when you choose to draw 7 cards, each draw resolves separately. So you can dredge 6, and then another Grave Troll hits the yard. There's my second replacement effect for the draw dredge, another 6. So you can chain the Grave Trolls together if you get them all into your yard, and then move on to your Stinkweed Imp. So you can dredge, at most, you're looking at 24, 29, 34 cards. At most, 34. And that's obviously, again, 34. Now, I'm a little bit fuzzy. I'm a little fuzzy on it. I don't know if I can respond by just dumping a bunch of cards to Phantasmagorian in response to another replacement effect for the draw. If it is true, you could just continually discard your Grave Trolls then and draw a couple more cards. I'm a little bit fuzzy on. Wait a second. Draw 7. That's 24, 29, 34, 39. Sorry, 39. Because you're drawing 7, not 6. Sorry. But still, even if you have to do it where you can only draw maybe 30 cards, that's this is one that's half your deck starting. Then -7. There's 23. You probably have at least a good 5 cards in your graveyard. Jesus, man, that's the majority of your deck. You should be able to win by then. Basically, you can win through Flayer, bringing the Grave Troll back. You could win, you could win in the air just by beating the crap out of your opponent with Griselbrand if they got no flying creatures. You can win via Bridge from Below tokens. You can win Narcomoeba, Nether Shadow, Bloodghast, Ichorid Beatdown. But the sideboard is, to me, the sideboard is where I go back to the old school extended build. Because for those who got into Legacy, never played the older extended when Torment block, Ichorid was legal and extended. What I used to do is the deck used to be blue, black, and green. And what I used to do is I used to run Riftstone Portals in the board. Simply because I could just get Riftstone Portal in the graveyard, and if it's in the graveyard, all your lands tap for green and white mana. So that means I can flash. I get my Ray of Revelation flashback. I get my Ancient Grudge flashback, so I can nuke artifacts, nuke enchantments. And this is where the board this is where my board kind of brings the old extended Frigorid build into the manaless dredge build that I'm running right now for this variant. And then, of course, we got another copy of Sickening Shoal for just random, just creature kill if you need it. 2 copies of Unmask. I always like to run more discard in the board, especially with Dredge. To me, it just helps. Some players really, I don't know why, but some players still don't really expect it. Then we got our Guile in case, in case you mill everything. Guile can just get shuffled back. Or if you're playing against like a Painter Servant, it gives you an extra turn, because if they mill everything, you can go ahead and you can stack your Nether Shadows, so that there's always going to be 3 creatures above them. You can bring those 4 back. You can bring your Ichorids back. Your Narcomoeba trigger will probably have already hit the stack unless they have an effect like Rest in Peace or Leyline of the Void, or they do something like Surgical Extraction, Extirpate on the Narcomoebas. But at least if they're now if they do like a Rest in Peace thing, you're pretty much dead already. But still, it's a way to prevent that. Most Painter Servant decks I've seen are blue-red or mono-red. And then we got our Ashen Riders. These are these right here. These are still hilarious to bring out against Show and Tell. They just are. It doesn't matter what they cast. I mean, they cast Show and Tell, and they drop maybe a Sneak Attack, or an Emrakul, or a Griselbrand, or whatever. It's just hilarious because nuke whatever you just brought into play. I love it, and these were actually only a few dollars to get. I'm surprised a lot of other players really didn't get them, because it is a really, really good card. Hard casting it, man, you'd be an idiot, but I don't hard cast in this deck apparently. So this is our manaless dredge variant. It's a Dakmor Salvage dredge variant with Bloodghast and a kind of a blend of my old manaless dredge board with what I used to run in Extended back when Frigoride came out. If you didn't play Extended when Frigoride came out, man, you missed a great time to play Extended, man. It was nuts, man. It was crazy. People hated that. I mean, you literally would. You would have a sideboard, and you would have at least like 5-6 slots just dedicated to just the graveyard hate. You'd be playing Boros deck wins, and you would run 4 copies of Morning Tide, which was before Frigoride came out. You could find that at the dollar rare bin. It was a crap rare. Nobody wanted it. And all of a sudden, man, everybody was like, "Oh, I need Morning Tide. I need this. I need that." And it was hilarious, and I loved it. It was so fun. I just love the old Extended Dredge, and that's really what brought me into the Dredge mechanic. Playing the old Extended Dredge, back when I would, Tolarian Wind, and have our Deep Analysis, and it was just, and I was running Cabal Therapies, Overgrown Tombs, Watery Graves, Fetch Lands from Onslaught Block, Chrome Moxes, like turn 2 Psychotog, turn 1 Putrid Imp or Zombie Infestation, because we didn't have Bridge back then. So we used Zombie Infestation as a discard outlet and a token generator. So it was really hilarious. I like this deck. The only really expensive card, obviously, is Griselbrand, because a lot of people use it. I've seen it in Reanimator, I've seen it in Show and Tell, Sneak and Show, I've seen it in a lot of decks. But if you built the standard Bolstered Spy manaless dredge deck, a couple of paychecks would easily cover everything else in this deck. It would. A couple of paychecks would easily cover it. This is a real funny deck. I mean, some of the stuff is just like legitimately crazy. You go ahead, you haven't played your land that turn, you sacrifice, say, like 1 or 2, like you sacrifice a Bloodghast and like a Nether Shadow and a Narcomoeba, Dread Return, your Griselbrand, and one of the last cards you dredge is Dakmor Salvage, and then you play your land, you just get 4 new creatures, you get like 4 Bloodghast, just 4 free, boom. There's, Cabal Therapy fodder, or more Dread Return fodder, or just if your opponent's at 10 life and you can swing for the fences and win, just boom, kill them. But it's a really hilarious deck. It's just like it's some of the most insane crap that you do. But you do have to be careful when you choose to draw 7 with Griselbrand, because it's a replacement effect. If you cannot replace the amount of cards that are in your library, so if there's 5 cards in your library, you can't go Golgari Grave Troll and dredge 6. No, you gotta dredge 5. Okay, so if there's no other... Obviously, this would be very, very hard to get to this point, but if there were no other dredge cards in your deck, you would have to start drawing cards. So all in all, good deck. Griselbrand's most expensive. Then it would be Therapies and Bridge from Below's last time I checked. Very, very similar play style to manaless Dredge Blue and manaless Dredge with Bolstered Spy. It's a very, very similar play style. It just requires a little bit of practice. The board is just really hilarious because a lot of people don't expect Riftstone Portal. You know, they don't expect a Riftstone Portal to hit the graveyard and then Ray of Revelation to just boom, come back out, nuke. Say, oh god, I don't know, Humility or Solitary Confinement if you're playing, say, like an Enchantress build or something. They don't expect Ancient Grudge to come out. They don't really expect a lot of those cards to come out. They expect a very, very different build. Now, variants, you could obviously use Fairy Macabre if you wanted Graveyard Hate for this. You could use more creature removal, you know, more Sickening Shoals, you know, Contagions. You know, you could use Chancellor of the Annex for your board. But I like this board because, to me, it's just nuts. It's crazy and really unexpected. I mean, like, really, really, really unexpected. And it's just really hilarious to see the look on somebody's face if they hard cast Rest in Peace and you got your Riftstone Portal and a Ray of Revelation in the side or in the graveyard, and you have an untapped Dakmor Salvage. Comes into play effective Ray goes on comes into play effective Rest in Peace goes on the stack. Okay, I'm gonna tap my Dakmor Salvage for green because of Riftstone Portal, flashback, Ray of Revelation, kill it. You still lose your graveyard, but you killed Ray of Revelation, so you can rebuild your graveyard from there. It'll buy your opponent a few turns. But it's not a game breaker, at least. Which is why I think it's so freaking hilarious to have that Ray. 'Cause I've caught people by surprise before. So until next time, and next deck I'm doing is going to be another Dredge build. I think it's going to be the very last Dredge variant I do. Unless some new Dredge build comes out. It's going to be the last one I do. But it's going to be our Dryad Arbor Dredge build, so look forward to that. And as always, for more Magic videos, you know, just check the playlist, man. And like, comment, and subscribe if you're not already subscribed for anything random like this.